Hello, everyone. We're just going to wait a couple of minutes for everybody to join, a couple of seconds actually, to everybody to join in. Okay. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're very excited to have you. My name is Tara Shrem, and I'm part of the HR team based in Dubai, and I will be facilitating the career camp today. Before we start with our first speaker, I would like to take you through some housekeeping. So please, can you keep your mics on mute? Make sure your cameras are off. And if you have any question, please write it down in the chat box. And as well, this session is going to be a 2-hour session, and the agenda has been shared with all of you through the invitation. And we're going to be recording this session as well. So allow me to introduce our chairman, Essam Al-Tamimi. Please, Essam, over to you.
Good afternoon. How long I have
20 minutes, please.
Good, lovely. So good afternoon to everyone. My name is Essam Al-Tamimi. I'm the chairman of Al-Tamimi and Company Law Firms. I founded the firm maybe over 30 years ago. And I had the pleasure of working with my colleagues, male and females, for all nationalities to build Al-Tamimi and Company. And I wish you all the success in your career. I'm really pleased that you have chosen the legal profession as a choice. And I hope it was a choice for some of you. And to wish you all the best in this wonderful profession. Of course, this profession taught me number of things. Taught me business, because I have learned from number of clients in banking, in shipping, in IT, in constructions. They trade the way they basically trade. So if I help them in contract, or I help them in litigation, I tend to come into their business, and I learn from them a lot of skills, vocabulary, language, the way this business consultant. So I have gained a number of experience besides being a pure legal, with a legal background, certain skills on different industries, because I have worked with a number of businessmen from different industries. And beside the technical skills, the nice thing about this profession, that you learn the skills of people. So when you sit with a CEO of an IT companies, or you meet a chairman of a bank, or you meet a very innovative person who has developed an app and he's trying to secure his brand or trademarks or IP rights, you learn a lot of from the personal, the way he conducts himself and the way he holds himself. And those personal skills is very important, which I will try to cover in my discussions with you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions today. So it's actually a wonderful profession. It's not an easy profession, and I'll tell you why it's not easy, because I was a student like you. The education of it's not the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge I found in my education, at least, the different vocabulary you have to learn when you become a lawyer. It's very, very different from the language you use on day to day. When you get into whether Arabic or English, you get exposed to a number of good legal words that you will use over and over throughout your career, whether in drafting or in arguing things in court, or we're standing in an arbitration case, where you use this language skills very well, and clients tend to judge you. Judges tend to judge you. People in the community tend to judge you based on how good you conduct yourself, even speaking and writing. Don't forget, when I work with clients, a lot of time they don't see much of the research and the hard works and the reading of the books and the things I do in the office. They tend to judge me based on the advice I give them, the one I write, and then when they read it, say, oh, well, this guy has basically covered all the bases. His language is very clear. He's direct to the point, and he gave me a wonderful advice that I get. So, or if you speak in a conference, they hear you and say, oh, this guy is a very good speaker. He really very clear in the way he speaks. His Arabic language is perfect, or his English language is very good. And he tend to get to speak very well. And I'm very impressed. Or people basically see you standing before the judge. Even judges sometimes get impressed. So the way you conduct yourself and the way you speak and the way you things, and this is something you learn from your education in the university, from reading books, and from having to. And why I say it's a difficult profession, not because of the language, no. It's difficult profession because it's required training, and training is boring, and training takes a long time, and it does not give you immediately the self satisfactions and esteem that you are looking from this profession. All of us would like to be sitting at a big desk, becoming a famous lawyer, getting our pictures in the news, getting people to talk to us about us in the community, reads our articles, hear us in the social media. Well, doesn't come overnight. Needs skills, need training. Because if you jump today and speak in the social media and you are not very good at your subject, you have not researched your subject very well, you have not been trained at this particular area of law, you're going to make fool of yourself in the social media. And if you not write an article today, any of you today write an article about a very specialized subject, such as basically marine issues, maritime issues, about the right of collision of two ships in the open sea, or basically a right of some leasing of an aircraft, aviation. And if you write an article about all the legal point about aviation law, you're going to embarrass yourself. Why? Because you're really not qualified. You cannot just read a book and write an article. It requires experience, requires having worked on this subject. You have been trained by a senior lawyer who specializes in subject. You have worked with a team. You have advised other clients, and you gain that experience over a year and year. And that's, in my opinion, the most difficult part of the legal profession is that good training, the specialized training, and you gain experience from that training, and then you utilize that training and the education, the good education you have, you blend it together, the good education with a good training, and that's basically a good ingredient, a very good ingredient for you becoming a very good lawyer. Not guaranteed, and I'll tell you why it's not guaranteed in a few minutes, but that's a very good start, very good platform. But training is boring. Even when I was training, I had to push trolley behind lawyers and to the courts, and I was basically a busboy. I just basically was pushing files on a trolley. And you have to do this as part of the training. You have to go and basically organize files. You have to just go and number certain files in an arbitration case. Your job will be just basically putting numbers on a piece of paper. Today, of course, things get more advanced. You can do it very quick with the computers, but that's part of the training. Delivering things to the court, walking behind a senior lawyer, taking notes in the meeting. So all this works. To start with it, it's maybe viewed as a boring job. And I thought it was a boring job. I thought it was not an important job, but in some way, it was exactly exciting because it's got me to learn about subjects I had never even thought about. It's got me very proud that we have won the case that I was involved in it, even if I was basically pushing the trolley. It got me to be exposed to matters that I would never have dreamed of a discussions of issues and how the issues were basically broken into subject and a smaller subject and in a component, and that components basically from it, we created a very good strategy and advice to clients. You will never be able, whether you are a lawyer or anything else, to build a strategy for the clients unless you know the small components of the issues you're discussing. You know the small nitty-gritty of that particular area of law. If you are strong on those issues, you then can build a strategy, and that strategy will work because you know your subject very well. And the only time you know your subject very well, if you are trained very well. If you are not trained very well and you're not exposed to this subject very well, then you basically cannot be a very good lawyer at that subject. And that's why today you'll find most of the area of practice in law and all other field specialization. So if you find doctors, they specialize in neurosurgery, you find orthopedics, you find different doctors specialize in different areas because it's required that specialization, requires that training, require that basically works under a much specialized doctor to train how they operate or how they treat or how they basically examine things. And exactly the same is in the legal profession. And I encourage you, if there's anything that I want you to come out of this discussion today, the extreme importance of being disciplined in your training, and you spend a lot of time being trained by a good law firm and a good lawyer, and you try to follow their footsteps for years, and then you get to become that important lawyer that the law firms would basically keep and trying to make you a partner in that firm, and you become the important lawyers in the community. Or even if you go in-house, even in-house lawyers, there's, the junior lawyer in-house, there's the senior lawyer in-house, and there is general counsel lawyer in-house, and there is the international general counsel where you go. So even if you go in-house, if you become a judge, you'll become a judge of the court of first instance, and you become a judge of the appeal, and you become a judge of the Supreme Court of the Court of Cassation. So the legal profession has all levels. And the people basically, they graduate from one level to another is based on experience, is based on knowledge, is based on very good training, and based on very good education, and based on very good subject that I like to also to discuss with you today, which is, okay, fine. And someone will stand of you now and raise his hand and say, okay, Mr. Tamimi, if all lawyers graduate from law school, and all lawyers basically go for training, then what's distinguish one lawyer from another? Why one lawyer is very successful, very talented, very famous, and others are not? That's a very good question. And you need to ask yourself every day this question. Why some of you, I don't know how many we have on the screen now, may I ask?
38.
How many?
38.
Okay, so I'm gonna, for sake of argument, I'm gonna say 60. So I'm gonna count it myself with you guys. So why out of 60, maybe 20 are extremely successful persons and 40 are not? They're okay lawyer, or some of them basically maybe 10 a failure. Sorry to say this, but that's a fact. That's a basic life. So if you go to a hospital, you go into a hospital, you find in the hospital maybe 60 doctor, maybe 20 out of the doctors are talented, well-known, famous. Some of them okay, and some of them you don't want to see. You go to engineering, you find people who build Burj Khalifa, and you find people who basically build villas, and they're good at villas, and you find somebody who you don't want to even give him to build your servant quarter at home because they don't trust their skills. And that's basically exactly based on what I've said: good education, good training, and then there is two elements here is very important, which is basically they don't teach you in law school, and they cannot teach you in a law firm, which is your personal talent, your personal skills as a human, and how much you basically invest in yourself in another value-added skills as a human. So playing tennis is a good thing. Playing golf is another good thing. Being good at public speech is very good. So the personal skills you add to your personality, it definitely adds to the legal profession and the way you can basically become a better lawyer in the community. So if you basically social well with the community, you contribute, or you basically love charity, so you involve in charitable works, you help disadvantaged people in the health sector, you contribute to some Red Cross or Red Crescent or Red Cross activities. Those are skills and activities you could do them in the community as a human that get you to spread around in the community. People know you. It's an additional skills that you have in additional to the legal profession that you need as a human. You need it as a doctor. You need it, and you tell me, okay, how this going to help me as a lawyer? Well, lawyers need a client, and clients needs to be to know the lawyer. And by you exposing yourself in the community, by playing tennis, playing golf, going in public speech, doing charitable, you're going to basically spread yourself in the community. And as you spread yourself in the community, people will connect with you, and people will going to know you're a lawyer, and they're going to come to use you. The other item, which is as important, you build your personal skills as a human by reading, by reading things related to the law or not related to the law, by adding further skills to your personality. Just imagine if you are a lawyer, speaks one language, Arabic, or you are a lawyer speaking 4 languages. So by you becoming an English and Arabic speaking lawyer, you have added to your skills as one skill, which is the English language in addition to the Arabic, or if you are English adding Arabic language to your skill, you become much more valuable lawyer to the community and to the law firm and to the legal departments you are in, or to the court you are working in, or with the prosecutor's office you are in. By adding just a language to your skills, by adding 4 languages, you become slightly more important than the first one. And beside that, if you basically go and read a lot about aviation law, you likes to research about it, you added another skills that beyond the normal training in the firm. You basically have, you write articles, and that is not required from you in the law firm, but you basically interested in researching and writing those articles, going doing a master degree, going to conferences and seminar on particular subjects of area of law that you love, that you want to develop your skills on. So developing your personal skills and adding to your building personal skills as a human, and spreading yourself in social work, working in the community, building skills, even if it has nothing to do with the law, as simple as playing tennis, those are gonna add to your personality. And as a result of this, by default, without you knowing it, and I go back now, when you had the legal education and the legal training, you then become a creative, talented person. And that's why basically people always speaks about, we basically want to retain talent. We want to keep talent. We want to attract talent. Talented people are not basically made in a different oven. They're made in the same process as me and you and everyone else. But those talented people is basically have invested in themselves, invested by creating, by attending to the training, went to a good law school, and then they start continuing to add their skill indefinitely. There is no time ever where you could stop. I've been in this profession 38 years. I continue to build up skills. I continue to find ways to fit myself in the community on some community services. I try to even find a new hobbies. I try to read something. I try to learn by listening to some speech on the internet when I'm free at home to learn about a particular area of law. I'd like to understand how blockchain works today, what's a cryptocurrency works, and what the legal ground of the cryptocurrencies. I don't have to if I have no interest. There's many other fields I can spend, but that's something I'm interested in, to developing my skills to be able to become relevant to my community and the community we are in. So my message to you, if you want to increase the number of the 60 I'm talking about today, from becoming 20 talented, 20 successful, 40 okay, we can easily flip this by having 40 talented and very important and relevant community, 20 irrelevant, by us doing those simple things. And it has to be consistent and have to be persistence throughout. I've spent my 20 minutes. I could speak to another 2 hours, but I'm happy to take 1 or 2 questions before I leave you guys. And I wish you all the best and success in your future career.
Thank you, Assam, so much. Anyone would like to ask a question, please? You can write it in the chat box. It's a great opportunity. It starts from now. Okay. Somebody has a question. Is it better to take the master's degree directly after graduating?
Okay, very, very good question. I took it immediately after graduation. And it depends about the personality. I was always in a race. I want to basically catch up with the train all the time. I always was eager to catch up. I thought, which I was totally wrong, that as the country was growing, I will miss opportunities. I will not be able to find myself in the community. People are basically filling the chair, and there was no chair left for me to sit at. But that's not true. There is a huge gap for talent in the community. There is a huge room for people basically to grow even tomorrow. There is a huge demand for a good lawyer in this firm, and I have so many ministries and clients asking me for a good lawyer. So if it was up to me today, I will do it after work, after a year or 2 of work, because I think going into the master, you will then have in your mind some practical example, some actual works experience, some cases that you can relate to, some working environments you can relate to in your law firm. But every person has his own conditions, his own circumstances. For some who gets into work may not be able to get out anymore. And once you are working for an employer, may not let you go out to master. So if you want to do it immediately after college, because of your circumstances, do it. If you can, go to work for a few years, 2 to 3, and then to master is probably better.
Thank you, Assam. We have another question. Mr. Assam, as being a lawyer or in a law firm, what difficulties that you face?
The question, what difficulty you face in the law firm?
Yes, as like in a law firm or as being a lawyer.
Oh, multiple. I still face challenges now. I faced challenges many before. I can list some, and they could be as short as 100 reasons. One, you always have competition in the markets. Legal profession is very competitive. Lawyers are very competitive. You will find competitive people inside the firm, and you find competition outside the firm. And always people try to bypass you, try to limit your growth, try to become better than you, and you need to find your ways in a gentle way to grow. It is an industry that's evolving, so you need always to read and catch up. One thing that you laugh at me when I graduated from college, or no, not high school. When I graduated from high school, one of the things that I had in mind that I don't want to read too much anymore when I want to graduate. I get tired of reading so many things at high school. I read day and night. I read things every day between 11 to 12 at night. I'm reading something in preparation for tomorrow. Endless practice. One of the challenges in the legal profession, and this is a very good challenge, is that legal profession has very strict ethics standard, which you have to follow. And those ethics standard, if you don't follow it, is a killer for the lawyers. If you don't follow those ethics very well, your client's money, your client's responsibility, the trust that the clients have for you when they give you their documents, the secrecy, it has an endless ethical standard. If you missed on that, you are buried. Once you're basically known to be unethical and you don't follow standards, you might as well switch profession to another profession, because you get killed with this profession. There's many challenges, but the good news, you need just to basically get your course and move on at 1 centimeter every day forward. I repeat, not 1 meter, 1 centimeter forward.
Thank you so much, Osam, for making the time and be with us today. I mean, we have plenty of questions as well, but maybe we can take them offline and get back to the students later with the answer. Thank you so much for making the time and for giving this valuable inspiration words. Thank you so much.
I wish you all the best, and happy to be part of any discussion in the future. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. So I would like to introduce our next speaker, Patrick Earl, our COO. Patrick, over to you, please.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patrick Earl, as Talas just said, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Altamimi & Company. Just from my side, welcome to today's career camp, and we're really delighted that you can join today. You've met Mr. Altamimi just now, but what I wanted to do was give you a bit more of an in-depth introduction into Altamimi as a law firm. I mean, my presentation is entitled Who We Are, and I'm sure that many of you already have an idea of who we are as a law firm, but I wanted to drill down into that into a little bit more detail. So I've got a few slides for you. If we could move to the next one. Okay, so let's start from the beginning, and that means starting with our vision as a law firm. Now, for any company, the vision is really what defines your identity, and everything else that you do should flow from that. So for us at Altamimi & Company, our vision is to be MENA's leading law firm. Now that sounds like a very simple statement, but there are a couple of important signals, if you like, in this phrase that I'd like to bring to your attention. Firstly, the acronym MENA, Middle East and North Africa, that's actually quite a recent addition to our strategy. And the addition is the North Africa piece. For those who follow the legal industry in our region, it's probably fair to say that Altamimi & Company is already the leading firm, or at least one of the leading firms in the Middle East. And I don't think many people would argue with that. But the addition of North Africa to our vision is an important step for the firm, and it's an indicator of where we expect to grow in the coming years. And I'll just leave that point hanging for a moment, and I'm going to come back to that and say a bit more about that in a moment. But secondly, the second sort of word I'd like you to focus on here is the word leading. There are many different ways in which you can measure leadership. And in the next slides, I want to share some more information about how we measure our leadership at Altamimi & Company. And this really goes to the heart of what differentiates us from other law firms and what makes us unique. Next slide, please, Tala. Yeah, so firstly, clients. If you want to be the leading firm, then you have to have great clients. You have to be working on their most interesting, complex matters. At Altamimian Company, we have a unique client base. Quite often, we have to keep the names of our clients confidential. I've just included a few client names here, just for general information. But our client base consists of regional clients, large multinationals, governments, and international law firms. I can assure you that you would be familiar with many of the names on our client list, leading companies and banks from across the region. So that's clients. If we can move on to the next slide, Ella. Next, it's our unique regional footprint. No other law firm has the regional coverage that we have in our region. 16 offices across 9 countries. And I mentioned earlier that we're looking now to expand further into North Africa. And I'm really excited to announce, this is almost an exclusive, that we're very, very close to signing an agreement to open a new office in Casablanca in Morocco. And that will be our 10th jurisdiction, our 17th office. So watch this space for that. So leadership, again, measured by clients, also measured by our regional footprint. Next slide, please, Tala. So another way in which we demonstrate our leadership is through our practice coverage. Some law firms in this region, they specialize in disputes, others in corporate transactions, others specialize in shipping or banking. At Altamimian Company, we cover all aspects of corporate law. That's a major benefit for our clients because it means that we're effectively a one-stop shop for all of their legal needs. But it's also great for our people because that means that whichever area of law you're passionate about, you can find a home here at Altamimi. And we continue to expand our service offering all the time based on market developments. A great example of that would be tax. Tax has become much more of a feature of our commercial landscape in the last 4 or 5 years across the region. And we now have one of the leading tax practices of any law firm in the Middle East or North Africa. So again, leadership through practice coverage. And next slide, please. So this is what I call deep bench strength. And by that, I simply mean the number of lawyers and partners that we have at the firm. And I've prepared some figures for you here. I'm sure many of you will be familiar about the legal market in the region. You'll know who the leading firms are. You'll be familiar with many of the names on this chart. I think what is really interesting about Altamimian Company is that we're more than twice the size of our closest competitor in the UAE. So if size is a measure, then we're leading on that as well. Next slide, please. And next, so we're a very diverse firm, and it's something that we're incredibly proud of. Over 50 nationalities. And when you bring together so many different people from so many different backgrounds, it creates a huge opportunity. So much knowledge, different language capabilities, different contacts, different links with different communities. So this is, it's something that's quite difficult to measure, but without doubt, our diversity is one of the key ingredients of the firm's success. And as I say, something that we're very proud of. And if we move to the next slide, just finally in this section, we can also measure our leadership through the awards that we receive, through the way that we're recognized in the market. And again, for those of you who follow these things, you'll often see our name mentioned, whether it's the Chambers, directories, the Legal 500 Awards, IFLR, the Oath Awards. You'll often see Altamimi nominated for multiple awards, and we often win in many of those categories. So it's not the only measure of success, it's just one measure of success, but it's always nice when we get that recognition from the market. So what I've tried to do is sort of acquaint you with some ways in which we measure our success, some ways in which we measure our leadership, and also acquaint you with some basic facts about the firm while doing so. But I did want to highlight that although we look at leadership in many different ways, it's not just about being the biggest or the best, it's also about what you give back to your community and to your stakeholders. And so that's why I brought this quotation onto the screen. This is from the management guru, Peter Drucker. Leadership is not about rank. Leadership is also about responsibility. So I want to talk a little bit about that as well. If we move on to the next slide. So let's talk about the different stakeholder groups that we have. Let's start with our existing team, our existing employees. Well, firstly, it's about culture, and we have a very strong culture at Altamimi & Company. This is why you'll often hear colleagues talk about the Altamimi family. This is built on the firm's values: respect, transparency, responsibility, growth, teamwork, and innovation. You'll see here there's a phrase, committed to your success, which is part of our branding. It's a phrase that you'll see on all of our marketing materials. And in one way, this is about how the firm is committed to the success of our clients, but this also applies internally in the sense that the firm is absolutely committed to the success of its people. Next slide, please, Tal. So one way in which we demonstrate this is through training. You'd have heard Asan talk earlier about the importance of training, and hopefully our training isn't boring. We provided last year almost 3,000 hours of formal training across the firm. That's a figure that's been growing every year, year on year, and we're looking to invest further in our learning and development in 2022. And that training covers all levels, from trainees as they enter the business right up to partners, also the non-lawyers in the business, and as I say, something that we continue to invest in year after year. So if we move on, that covers some of our internal stakeholders, but what about external stakeholders? So on this slide, I wanted to highlight the importance of the role we play in distributing and providing legal knowledge to the market. And a great example of this is our Law Update magazine, which some of you may be familiar with. It's been running for over 30 years, well over 300 editions to date. In every edition, you'll see between 25 to 30 articles about current topics, current legal topics across the region. It's a really valuable resource, and it's something that we produce for clients, of course, but it's available to everybody, to the whole market. Anyone who's interested in the legal landscape within the Middle East and North Africa region, we make that available free of charge. And of course, I would encourage you all to subscribe to it and to read it as students of the law. And then next slide, please. Turning to our communities, corporate social responsibility. So that's a really, really important concept for Altamimi & Company. The way that we look at our CSR program is we break it down into 3 areas. That's pro bono, environment, and community investment. Pro bono is where you provide free legal advice to needy cases, where otherwise they wouldn't have access to justice. Environment becoming increasingly important, of course, and it's a topic very, very much close to our hearts. Within this region, of course, extremely important in the coming years, we've got COP28 coming to the UAE next year. And we have a number of environmental initiatives that we're running internally. And just recently, we submitted our application for the ISO 14001 certification, which demonstrates our commitment to environmental management within our organization. The final component of CSR is community investment, and that is direct investment into charitable causes. We have an annual budget for that, and we're regularly seeking out opportunities through our staff for ideas about needy causes that we can invest in directly by providing financial assistance. So that's CSR. And also another way that we engage with our stakeholders is through innovation. We very much see ourselves as an innovative law firm, and I'm sure many of you have heard the term legal tech. We have a number of legal tech tools available within the firm that make the jobs of our lawyers much easier, ensure that we can complete our client work more efficiently. We also have a really good corporate app, which is called My Tamimi app. You can download that for Apple or Android, and I would definitely encourage you to download it. From there, you can find out much more about the history of the firm. You can access all of the law update knowledge content that I mentioned earlier, and you can even chat online with an Al Tamimi colleague if you've got questions. If you do download the app, then please do share your feedback. I'd be very interested to hear it. And finally, just moving on to, I think this is my final slide. Another way in which we've sort of changed the way that we work, changed the way that we operate as a firm is through our, what I'd call our workplace strategy. I'm sure that many of you would have heard about hybrid working, which means the combination of working from an office, working from home. So this is something that we've really brought to life in our Dubai office in the last year. We moved in August 2021, we moved to a new office in Dubai. And as part of that, we redesigned the space completely so that it was tailored for hybrid working, gives colleagues the flexibility to work in any way they want to. And I've included a few pictures here of what the new office looks like. So just a final summary about us in numbers: 16 offices, 9 countries, 82 partners and over 350 lawyers, and over 450 legal professionals in total, and over 850 employees in total. More than 50 nationalities, but most importantly, one fully integrated law firm. So I hope you've now got a better understanding about our firm and about our vision to be MENA's leading law firm. Thank you. And if we have time, I'd be happy to take questions. Otherwise, I will hand you back to Tala.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Is there any question you'd like to ask? I was reading about the company and I noticed that there is a branch in the IFC. So with that statement, I concluded that this company has lawyers that has passed the bar exam and can litigate in the English court. So why not make the firm worldwide and open branches in Europe?
Yeah, it's a great question about opening branches in Europe, and it's something that we've looked at. One of the challenges, I could call it challenges, that we would face in that respect is that we actually work with a lot of, I mentioned this earlier, with a lot of international law firms. The reason that they come to us, you might think it's strange. Why would another law firm work with us? You might think that we would be competitors, but that's not actually the case, because we are experts in the law in the Middle East and North Africa. And many of the international law firms either don't have offices here in the region, or they have an office, but it's not maybe a large office. Maybe they're not specialized in some of the areas in which we're specialized. So just balancing our competitive position, we feel that it's better for us to focus on our region rather than, say, open in London. Because if we were to open in London, then some of the law firms that we work with, that we partner with, may perceive that as competition, and they may not come to us for that work. And law firms are actually the second largest client group that we have at Altamimi & Company. So it's not an insignificant source of work for us. It's a very significant source of work. You're right, by the way, that we do litigate in the English courts, in the sense that the DIFC courts here in the UAE, also in the ADGM courts, and the QFC as well. And then I see there's a question about internship opportunities. So we do offer internship opportunities, and I'm sure that's something that we're going to talk about, if I'm not mistaken, Tala, later in this presentation.
We'll be talking about the training contract and the internship later on in our HR director, Andrew, talking about the programs that we're offering. So we'll answer these questions then. Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you so much for your time and being here with us today.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. So I would like to introduce our next speaker, Barbara Cannon. She's the Business Development and Marketing Director, who's going to be taking us through the personal brand. And as you heard Isam saying in the beginning, that this is not an easy profession, and you need to learn how to stand out of that crowd. And this is the time in your career and in your studying where you need to build a strong personal brand that will help you moving forward. So over to you, Barbara.
Thank you, Tala, and hi everyone. It's very good to see you all attend this session today. So it's my pleasure to take you through something which is indeed, I think, very important if you want to make it to, if you want to have a very successful career in the legal industry, and probably also elsewhere. So I hope with this session, there will be some things that you can take away with it, that you can learn from and start using already. Because I think a lot of the time when we speak about personal brand, it's something that you may only consider you should do when you are actually a lawyer or when you've been practicing for some time, when you're a qualified lawyer, etc. But in fact, I think you already start to build your brand even also when you're in university, when you're attending law school. So it is really important to already start to think about where you want to be in the future and sort of like leave your trace behind. So that could be something you do online, for example, or the things you do offline. But obviously nowadays with in the digital age, it's quite easy to start doing that online. If we could go to the next slide, please. So what is a personal brand? So it's obviously something which is personal to you and how people may recognize you. So it links to your reputation, how you will be perceived in the market by potential employers, for example, but also later on in your career by your clients. So as much as the firm has a brand, so in our case, that would be Altamimi & Company, within our firm and within our brand, we have a number of sub-brands, right? We've got a lot of partners who would be running their practice, who've built their personal brands, they're quite well known. They manage to attract new work because of their reputation in the market, because of their personal brand. But you have to start at some point and you have to build it. And it's not an easy process. And it's also something that doesn't just happen overnight. You can't just wake up one day and think, okay, so now I'm going to have a very strong personal brand. it's something that, you know, evolves over time. Next slide, please. So let's take you to what a brand really is, because there is different variations to it. But, you know, back in the days already, they started to sort of like, you know, farmers, they started to use it to make sure that they knew which cattle would belong to their farm. And they would basically just mark their cattle to make sure that they would be able to identify which is theirs. So it comes from, you know, a long time ago, when we already started to use it as a means to sort of like identify something. And now brands like, you know, products or sorry, companies, product companies, but also services companies, they start to build a real brand. And it's not just the logo on the wall, where a lot of the time when we speak about brand, people think, you know, it's the company logo, but it's a lot more than that. A brand is based on, for example, company values, on, you know, perception within the market, on a variety of things that is just way beyond the things that you see on a business card. The visual identity that the firm or the company represents, for example, it's very multifaceted. So it's not just the logo that you see. And also, I think it's very important when you speak about a personal brand, again, it's not just you who they see, but there is a lot more around it. So as I said, it links back into reputation, for example. Next slide. And next point, please. So we'll discuss a few characteristics of a successful brand. And you will, if you think about some successful brands, like, for example, you know, Coca-Cola or Apple or Samsung, or, you know, some others that you see around you, you know, professionally, KPMG, for example, Altamimi and Company, of course, not to forget. Can we have all the points on the slide, please? It is something that brands are very good at, because, you know, this is why they succeeded. So, for example, they would know who they are targeting in terms of their demographics. So they know exactly who they're speaking to. They are genuine about what they do, and they're very passionate. You know, it's something that lasts sort of like an unforgettable experience. It's authentic and it's unique. They are able to influence others, and they're able to reach the target audience. Now, how does this relate to you building your personal brand? It's pretty much the same, right? Because if you want to, for example, consider yourself to be a lawyer within Altamimi and Company, you would have to sell your services, so the area of law that you would do, to your clients or to potential clients. Now, in order to do that, you need to know who you would be selling to. So again, if you manage to do that successfully, this is also how you would build a successful reputation for yourself and a successful personal brand. Also, it reflects if you're passionate, for example, if you're genuine in your approach, and build a successful brand in that way, a personal brand. And you would leave a lasting impression, right? Because the moment you sort of like walk out of a room and people start to talk about you, this is where they would refer to you as a personal brand, for example. And personal or successful brands are able to influence others. So they're able to influence behaviors, for example, or buying patterns, etc. And you need to make sure that you can set a target audience for yourself. So you would know who you want to reach out to or you want to sell your services to. But if you are successful, you would be able to do that, to actually sell your services to the people that you thought would be buying your services. And we can all agree, I think, that Apple has particularly been very successful in doing so. Next slide, please. So if we think about successful brands and what that looks like over time, I've just taken the example of Coca-Cola. You will see that there is a level of consistency there. So there might have been a time, you can see in 1985, where they have changed the visual appearance. So this is just about sort of like the logo on the wall, right? As we said, a brand and also your personal brand is much more than just a logo on the wall. It comes with values, it comes with feelings, it comes with, you know, triggering emotions, etc. But one of the things is the visual identity, and Coca-Cola has used one identity or pretty much the same identity over all that time, except for 1985. And then they actually decided to change it back to the old image again, because that's what they were known for and what resonated with people and what worked really well in terms of their sales. So the consistency is really important. And you see that with successful brands, they hardly ever change. How often have you seen Apple's logo change, for example? How often have you seen Dell's logo change? Or other professional services brands, law firm brands, for example. Our brand, our logo hasn't changed that much. It has a little bit, but we've been around for over 32 years. And we did change it slightly, but it's still, you would still identify us as the law firm in the Middle East and North Africa. If you would go completely sort of like, you would change your identity completely, it may mean that you will be less successful if you were to build in that consistency, because it builds on your reputation in the market, etc. And Coca-Cola has managed to do that very, very well. Next slide. So how would this apply to you in terms of building your personal brand? So you see this empty room and imagine yourself walking into this room full of people. So there's lots of people that you'd be networking with, for example, speaking to, etc. And what you would do in there is really very important, because it will leave a lasting impression on the people that you've spoken with. So the sort of like strength or how you leave your personal brand behind when you've spoken to people is when you step outside of this room and the people within that room are still talking about you, and the things that they would say about you is probably how you are being perceived, and that would be more or less your personal brand. So if they speak about you in a sense like, oh, she's a fantastic lawyer, you know, she knows the industry very, very well, she's the person to go to, and she's also helpful, she's also very nice, you know, she's very active as well on, you know, online, helping other people out, etc. This is what it does to your personal brand, to your reputation. And it's really important, as I said, to start to build that from the beginning already. Next slide, please. Next points. You can bring them all on the screen. Thank you. So some practical tips in order to sort of like leave a mark, especially when you are in university and you're not a lawyer just yet. What is it that you can do in order to build all of that? I think it's important to understand what your personal brand is and what we would be looking for when you build your personal brand. And this is not just for, you know, later on when you build your own client base, but this would also apply to you when you start to apply for internships or for traineeships, or actually later on to become a lawyer at a firm. What do your employers look for? Because they would also look at people who have that personal brand. And as Sam said in the beginning, it's for you to stand out from the crowd, and your personal brand would define that specific element to it. So what it means is your expertise. So what is it that you are good at? Have you built a niche for yourself? Have you developed some specialism, for example, or an expertise that you could share? Your knowledge. So how knowledgeable are you on specific topics within your expertise, etc. You're an expert in what? And what is your knowledge on that? And you can share that knowledge through sharing it online, for example, right? You can build your profile on LinkedIn, sharing the things that you know that you are very good at. If you don't do that, if you don't portray that, then how will people know and how will people understand what your personal brand is like? A specialism, like as I said, your expertise is something that you'd be very good at, but your specialism is something that you would specialize in. So for example, a specific area of law, or a specific industry sector, or for example, a specific set of clients that you want to advise. And then your personal brand also links closely with your reputation. I've mentioned that a couple of times. So the reputation is how you are being perceived by others. And obviously, it needs to be a good reputation. So we also look at the quality of the things that you would do within your personal brand. Would you, if you look at, for example, posting on social media, would you just randomly post things on your social media? Or would you apply a specific process where you only go for qualitative work? So anything, any comments on specific, I don't know, news articles, for example, or publications that have been published by others, the selection that you choose to put on your social media will also link directly to building your personal brand. So you have to be very careful in what you would do and what you wouldn't do. And it also plays on your strengths, right? You have to display what are you good at? What is it that you do that others can't do? So basically building that sort of like unique selling point for yourself. And this also will make you stand out from the rest of the crowd if you are quite vocal about what it is that you're good at. And showing a real level of passion. I think if you don't have that passion, it's very, very hard to really portray your personal brand and build that personal brand. So if you're passionate about a specific area of the law, for example, or a specific industry or companies, for example, try to focus on that and really show your passion that you have for these areas. And this would also be something that clients would be looking for. And when they make a selection, so when we, for example, with the business development team prepare proposals for our clients, we would build this into our proposals because clients are looking for, you know, to work with people who really understand their business, who are passionate about what they do. Why would you instruct a lawyer who's got no expertise, no knowledge, is not a specialist, has a very bad reputation, has no strengths, you know, is hardly passionate about anything? It's really important, right? Next slide, please. And then finally, some practical tips, which is to make sure that you're visible online. So if you don't have your LinkedIn profile, even if you think that it might not be applicable to you because you're a student, for example, trust me, it will, because building this personal brand is going to take a lot of time. It's not happening overnight. You have to invest in it now, and then you will reap the benefits from it later. But the sooner you start with that, the easier it will get for you in the long term. Make sure that you share things online that interest you. So this is how you start to build sort of like your reputation around specific areas of the law or a specific industry sector, etc. Start to write articles. You don't have to know it all, but I'm sure that you know a lot already. And there is a lot that you could possibly write on, even if it is personal opinion on specific areas of the law or the industry, as I said before. This is the time to do that. Make sure that you post regularly so that you start to build and leave a trace. Start blogging, for example, just short posts that you can host on different platforms. And make sure that you participate in chats and discussions. So even if someone else has said something on Twitter, on LinkedIn, think about it before you respond. But even your response would sort of like help you to improve your personal brand. Podcasting is a very popular thing to do, and it's relatively easy. Start your own podcast series. It is something that will make you stand out from the rest of the crowd because not everyone does it. It's relatively easy to do nowadays. You don't need much equipment. And it will definitely help you to build your personal brand. And also, if you get the opportunity already now to speak at networking events, even if this is within your universities, for example, get involved, really do it. It's something that you could add to your CV. It will make you stand out from the rest of the crowd. And obviously, with whatever you do, because this is professional, you have to make sure that you come across professionally, use professional pictures on LinkedIn, etc. Just really follow the basics. It's going to help you. All right, those were my tips for today. I'll hand over to Tala.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Thank you. Now we're gonna move on to our next session. It's about career stories, and we're gonna hear it from our partner and head of litigation Abu Dhabi, Mohammed Al-Marzouqi, and it's gonna followed by our trainee who started as an intern, trainee lawyer, then an England and Wales solicitor within the firm. So Mohammed, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Tala, and I'm very pleased being here with you guys. It was a passion for me to initiate this program a long time ago, and I worked with Tala and promoting this program. So I'm pleased to be with you. Now, as way of introduction, my name is Mohammed Al-Marzouqi. I am the Deputy Managing Partner of the firm and also Head of Litigation. I joined Al-Tamimi back in 2002 as a trainee, so I climb my way from the bottom of the ladder when I became here back in 2002. Now, I have been asked to talk about personal experience, career story, as Tala mentioned. Unfortunately, I did not prepare a presentation, but I will try to be, short as much I can. It is just a story, as I mentioned. And the reason that I've been asked to say this story, maybe I could, in a way or another, persuade you in becoming a lawyer in a law firm in the private practice. Now, just going back when I was at high school, as you may all have been thinking of before going to the college, my teachers or fellow students would ask me, what do you want to study at the college? What do you want to become in the future? Now, to be honest, the last thing at that time I thought of as becoming a lawyer is studying law. And the reason why I wasn't so fascinated in becoming a lawyer was mainly because of the media in those days and how they pictured a lawyer as a greedy, deceptive, changing facts in favor of their clients. There was also a fatwa, I remember this back in the 90s, saying that becoming a lawyer is haram, actually. So my parents never encouraged me to take this route. Now, my dream on those days is becoming a pilot. So I was sleeping and dreaming and becoming a pilot. So after the high school, I have applied for military flight school and been rejected. I applied for Emirates Airline twice, actually, and been rejected. Then I traveled to Bahrain and applied for Gulf Air because in those days there was no Ittihad. Ittihad was not established yet, and also being rejected. And then I decided to become aeromechanics and was not successful as well. Eventually, I ended up working at the Public Prosecution Department in Dubai for some reason. And while being there, I met prosecutors, judges, lawyers, and everyone in the legal fields, actually. However, I was more fascinated of lawyers and what they do. I learned more about how lawyers struggle and sacrifice for the interest of their client, how this profession is prestigious, the story about lawyers. I read a lot. Hence, I completely changed the way that I was looking at lawyers and the profession, and decided to become a lawyer. For me, I don't exaggerate to say that it was like converting from one religion to another religion. Complete change of my thinking. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, I started as a trainee lawyer with Al-Tamimi, and I was lucky enough to be trained by Mr. Assam Al-Tamimi personally. What I learned from Assam is not just law and how to be very good in interpretation of laws and applying laws and arguments before the court and all of that. I learned actually more than that. I learned how to, what do I need in order to become a successful lawyer according to the international standard. And back on those days, in 2000, beginning of 2000, it wasn't easy to find a mentor that has this kind of experience. And actually, I met a client with Assam. I traveled with him. I attended conferences abroad. I've done so many things with him and with other colleagues and partners of the firm. I feel that I was very lucky and being trained by Sam personally. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, I started my way up and being a trainee lawyer, then an associate, then a senior associate, then partner, and then equity partner, and then deputy managing partner of the firm. I work a lot with UAE government and other government in the region beside my practice area as a litigator appearing before the courts. I also drafted many federal and local laws for UAE government and KSA government and other government in the region. Now, as Assam mentioned, becoming a lawyer comes with many challenges. You need to build your knowledge. You need to build your clients, your reputation, participating in social events, charities. And also, the most importantly is to be bound by the ethics, as your reputation is the most important thing that you got. If you lose this reputation in any time, this will be an end for you, an end for your career. So struggling, fighting for your client, giving him the right advice, putting your client interest before your own interest is something that essential, important. If you want to continue in this practice, if you want to be successful in this practice, it is very important thing to do. Now, you also need to think of once you graduate, finish your training courses, and so on, you need to think of a practice area that you love. Now, Assam mentioned that it is not necessary for you to start your master degree immediately. And I do agree with him, and I did the same actually. I started working as a lawyer before then I decided what practice area that I want to develop in my personal career, and then decided to take my master. So it is very important that you you become specialized in certain area of the law. Nowadays, the general practitioner lawyers are not really something that will fascinate client. The client always looks for someone who are specialized in an area, specific area. So I suggest you do a lot of reading and searching before choosing any practice area. The requirement in the market, as I mentioned, and these days, specialty lawyers, and you need to work on this. Now, to sum up, choosing what is most close to your heart is a must, but becoming a good lawyer is not an easy way and needs a lot of hard work and sweat. And I do encourage you all to continue reading, expand your knowledge, to do a lot of searching about this. If you are passionate about becoming a lawyer, then it is very fascinating profession. It has every day, it has something different. It's not a boring routine daily work as you can see in other, I don't want to say government department. It's very challenging. It's very pleasing when you win a case. We always party when we win a case. So we have a daily party in our office. So it's something that very nice, very good to look at in your career. This was it for me. I hope I didn't take much of your time, but I wanted to leave the floor more for questions if you have any question.
Thank you, Muhammad. Please, if you have any question, would you like to write it in the chat box, please? Maybe we can answer, yeah, maybe you can answer previous question. How can an individual update themselves in the sense of the legal knowledge and the understanding of experience to come to an acceptable level by law firms and other companies to get qualified, meaningful jobs and different internship with experience inside? So we talk about legal knowledge and understanding of experience.
Yeah, if I understood this question correctly, I would think that Assam mentioned that training, knowledge, reading would never stop at any age. 20 years, 30 years from now, you will still require to read every day. There is always something new in the legal fields. You have to be updated. You cannot advise your client of outdated laws, outdated knowledge. There is a new, we call it new product in the legal practice every couple of weeks. You have to understand it. You have to learn about it. You have to master it if you want to become a successful lawyer. So don't stop reading. There is a lot of materials online that you can read. It is not just you need to read what is happening locally. It is very important also to read what is happening internationally, because so many concepts of the law it's pretty much a standard around the world. So it's important to know what is happening in other jurisdictions. The second thing that I recommend always to enhance your legal knowledge and relationship is to build a relationship with other lawyers from other jurisdictions. It's important. And the way that you can do that is by attending international conferences. It will expand your knowledge. It will expand your experience. You will be able to meet other lawyers. You will be able to discuss issues and not necessarily legal issues, issues in relation how to manage the firm, issues relating how to manage the client, issues related to quality. It is very important that you have around you many other colleagues that you speak with them. You share your profile with them in the LinkedIn. You share opinion in the LinkedIn or Twitter with them. So building your knowledge, it's not about reading only, but it's about also doing other things, like having a friendship with other lawyers. So it comes with a lot of things.
Thank you, Mohammed. We can take one more. It's like, as a trainee, what were the obstacles you faced back then, and how did you overcome it?
Okay, this is a good question, actually. Most of the trainee, when they attend the training in any law firm, the idea that they have is that they want to work, advise client, work with other colleagues on legal issues, try to sort out problems in the first day. And basically, this is not always the case. And when I started as a trainee, I was asked to go to court and hand over documents. That's it. I have been asked to take a file and summarize the facts. I have been sometimes asked to copy a file. So maybe someone wouldn't like to do this because he thinks that he is here to learn, not to do these kind of things. But it is very important things that you deliver documents, you summarize facts in a case, you minutes a meeting. It's very important, and you will learn a lot how those meetings happens, how you start, organizing your file in the future, organizing the ideas, the facts, the chronology. It's so important. And you should learn it at the beginning of your training session, because when I joined, Assam told me something that we are not the best. Let's say we don't have the best knowledge of the law in the market, but we are the best in providing services. In order for you to deliver the service to your client, which is as much important as giving the right advice, is to be well organized, is to respect the deadlines, is to how to meet the client, how to sit with him, how to take notes. All of these comes in one package in becoming a good lawyer. So if you did not learn these things at the beginning of your life, you will never learn this. It will be too late later. So all these are as much important as becoming a lawyer who appears before the court or provide an advice to a client.
Thank you so much, Muhammad, for your time and for being with us today. We have more questions, but we're going to be asking them offline. Thank you for coming. So now we want to go to our next speaker, Malak. Thank you so much. Malak, over to you, please.
Thank you, Tala. I'm very pleased to be here with you today. Hi, everyone. So just as a brief introduction, my name is Malak. I'm a trainee solicitor qualifying in England and Wales. I'm currently in my final seat, and my training contract is due to finish in May, so 2 more months to go, hopefully. But just to go a bit backwards, so I've been in Tamimi for 6 years now, and I started my journey here as a paralegal. But I wasn't always in the legal field. I actually have a business background, so I was one of these people that had a career switch very early on in my career, actually, but it was a switch. So I used to work in a multinational consumer goods company, but during my time there, I was very unmotivated. I was looking for something new. I was just not happy. But I was always fascinated about the legal profession, and I really wanted to get in. I just didn't know how, because my bachelor's was in business. I had no legal background. And I was really avoiding going back, doing another bachelor's, etc. So I kept looking, new opportunities, and ways to get in. And I found a master's program that would accept people from a non-legal background. And I really wanted to get into arbitration and dispute resolution. So I did a master's program in arbitration, and it was the best. So during my time there, legal research, writing papers, I would always, every time I would research a topic, I still remember, I would always bump into Tamimi colleagues, publications, law updates. And in the back of my head, I would always say, oh, this is where I want to be. That's what I want to do. I want to learn from these people. Very interested. So when I graduated from my master's, I was still working then in communications, a completely different field. I said, okay, I need to enter Tamimi. This is where I want to be. And it was always in the back of my head, didn't apply anywhere else. First time I applied, I got rejected. I shouldn't be saying this, but the first time I applied to Tamimi, they rejected me. Obviously, I didn't have a legal background, but I was so persistent. I said, no, please, I need to be here. Finally, I got in, entered as a paralegal with the arbitration department. This was 6.5 years ago. I started off zero legal background, no experience. So obviously, I was stuck with very mundane tasks, as any fresh student would be. So printing bundles, reviewing documents, proofreading, translating. So for the first year, I was doing very basic tasks, but that didn't discourage me. I was actually very encouraged. I said, okay, I need to fast track this. I need to start getting my career sorted. Very late in my, I'm older than other students, so I need to start fast tracking this. I need to get qualified. And I started looking at bachelor's of law degrees, because that's the only way you can get qualified as a lawyer. So I decided to go back to school. Didn't want to quit my job. I wanted to stay in Tamimi, so I decided to quit my social life instead and work and study full time. I did my bachelor's, finished that, went ahead and wanted to do qualifications in England and Wales. So I did the legal practice course and another master's. And now I'm finally done with my studies, and I'm en route to qualifying. So that's my very elaborate career story and very short time frame. But during my time, Tamimi supported my training and career ambitions, and I was very fortunate, to be with a team that did that. And during my time, actually, I was able to work on my professional and personal development through my role as a paralegal and a trainee. And there were reasons for that. You're not given these things on a silver platter. You have to seek them. And I always encourage this, to fresh joiners. I always say you have to seek mentorship. You have to seek advice from line managers or from your team members. Here in Tamimi, I was very lucky to be mentored by very smart and experienced lawyers within the firm. But you have to seek that. So that's my first advice is, if you go on in your legal practice careers, even now, if you find a mentor, seek advice from them with any aspect that you have questions on. During my journey here in Tamimi, I actually benefited from a lot of advice that was given to me from mentors here, and I thought I would summarize those and share them with you because I really benefited from them myself. So the first one was actually in my second year here in Tamimi. And Mr. Isam Tamimi actually said this to me. He said, stop hiding behind your title. Because I would always, say, oh, but I'm just a paralegal. Oh, it's fine. I don't have to do ABC. I don't, have to take it seriously or, when am I going to be qualified? Because I'm just a paralegal now. I can't do things that I want to do because I'm, stuck behind my role. And he said, stop hiding behind your title. Act the way that you want people to see you. If you don't want to be seen as a paralegal, then don't act like a paralegal. And no one's going to look at your title. And that's when it hit me, and I said that's 100% true. And my whole outlook has switched since then. And ever since he said that to me, I've changed the way that I've performed within the firm, and things have changed with that. So in the beginning, I would only do mundane tasks. I would limit myself to that. I wouldn't go to social gatherings or conferences. I wouldn't speak. I wouldn't, I would hide. I would say, oh no, I'm a bit shy. They might not take me seriously. I'm just a paralegal. But now I actually push more, and I get involved. I try to show up. I try to put my name out there, and it does really help a lot. So I would encourage you as well. So please don't hide behind your titles, whether you're a student or a trainee. Put yourself out there, and you will see results for sure. Second thing is, it's so important to take accountability for your work. It's very important to take personal responsibility of what you present. Show up and accomplish the things that you say you're going to do. This goes back to your personal brand, goes back to your reputation. And it's so important that your team can trust you and that they know that they can count on you to get things done. It's just, no one mentions the good things that you do, but then when you do one bad thing, it's all that they can think of. It ruins your reputation. So it's so important to always show up for the work that you say that you would do and take full responsibility for it. So don't put your name on something that you're not 100% proud of. Don't just submit something and say, oh, I'm just learning. It's fine. I'll just send whatever I can. Don't send it. Sleep on it. Wake up in the morning, review it again. This goes for whether you're still a student or even if you're, a paralegal or a trainee, or even when you go on to become a lawyer. Always take accountability for what you present. Third thing is to always work on yourself. And it's funny because this goes back to what Mr. Assam said earlier in the session. He said this profession requires a lot of training and learning, and it's 100% true. In the past 6 years and a half, I realized it's so important to invest in yourself. You have to be willing to learn new things, take on new challenges. You have to get involved as much as possible, whether that's socially, professionally, even as a trainee. So you have to ask to get involved. Don't just sit around on your desk, wait for someone to come and tap your shoulder. You have to always, ask, take control of your own learning. Ask your supervisor or your team if you can accompany them on client meetings, if you can get involved in drafting. I think that's the most important role to take as a trainee or even as a paralegal, is that you have to be willing to learn, because that's the only way you will learn. No one's going to feed it, to you or hand it on a silver platter. So, and also embrace the mundane tasks that you'll be given at the beginning of your career. So when I started, like I said, I would do the most mundane tasks like printing and proofreading and translating, but that is what taught me so much and made me who I am today. Those tasks really teach you a lot. They teach you on how to manage documents, manage client work, take the lead on your own cases in the future. And it's just, also helps monitor how other lawyers perform in cases. So please embrace those mundane tasks. Don't get discouraged from them. Also, another advice is to please improve your legal writing. There's, when I came in, the challenge for me was I always thought, I can write English, I can speak it. I speak Arabic, I'm fine. I don't need to work on that. It's so important to work on the way that you write. Nowadays, in the legal profession, it's so important to know how to write in plain English. And legal writing is a whole different skill. So it's very important to keep improving that constantly, because that's what sets you apart as a lawyer. So, another thing that would also help is to read a lot, and not just read legal publications. If you read Financial Times, Economist, a lot of those very well-renowned publications, you learn how to draft plain English. So it's very important to keep yourself up to date on proper language skills. Excuse me. And finally, please always ask for feedback. We always get caught in this trap where, we submit work and we just leave it hanging. We don't know what happened to it, whether they used it, whether they liked it, whether it was wrong. We just submit it and we move on with life. But it's so important to always ask for feedback. Take your training contract as an opportunity to learn. That's the primary goal here. So it's always important to learn. And the number one way to learn is to ask for feedback, even if it's constructive. So it's only natural that you'll make mistakes. But as time passes, you'll become more experienced, you'll gain confidence, and you'll definitely develop new skills. So yeah, I encourage you to please invest in yourself, be motivated, be persistent in growing personally and professionally. Thank you. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Malak. I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to take only one question. I'm sure you're going to have plenty of questions. How did you improve your legal writing?
That's a very good question. I remember when I first started, I would draft something and I'd think, oh, it's great, and I'd send it over to my line manager and it would come back fully redlined. It was all crossed out. It was fully wrong. And then in the beginning, I would say, oh my God, what is this? And then I would just implement the changes, send it off, and it's done. But the only way that I improved was when I started embracing those changes, and I would actually take that constructive criticism and say, okay, you know what? I need to put a notepad down. And I still remember I had a notepad that I would pin to the board I had in the office, and I would write down all the tips. For example, don't use passive voice, don't use legal jargon, avoid these certain terms, and that's the only way that I actually improved my legal writing. So my advice is probably to say to you is read a lot of books as well. Embrace learning. A lot of us get sucked into the trap of just not wanting to learn it, but it's very important to do so. And also there's a book that I still remember my line manager gave me my first year, was called Point Made. I don't remember who the author was, but it was very helpful. for me to improve my legal writing. So I, encourage everyone to read that book as well. So, yeah. Hope that's helpful.
Thank you so much, Malak, for being with us today.
Thank you, Tala.
So I'm going to introduce our next speaker, our HR director, Andrew Rushworth. So Andrew, over to you, please.
Yeah, hi everyone, and thank you, Tala, for the introduction. So, well, welcome everybody. I've not been present throughout all of this afternoon, but I have been listening for the last 30 minutes, and I think there's some great advice there that you've just listened to. So please, take that forward as you develop your careers further. I just wanted to share with you, however, the sort of structure to the trainee programs that we offer here at Al Tamimi. And it's been said already, but there's different routes that one can follow, depending on the jurisdiction in which you wish to be admitted as a lawyer. And in the UAE, we offer two different routes. One is for those that would be admitted locally within the UAE Ministry of Justice system, and that is limited to UAE nationals only. And then we have the England and Wales program, which is, as it's stated, you would be admitted to practice law in the jurisdiction of England and Wales, and much of which is also practiced here in the various common law sort of free zones within the UAE. And that is open to both UAE nationals as well as non-UAE nationals, so expats. And then the final piece that you're looking here on the slide is that we also offer an internship program. So we offer two trainee routes, which will lead to bar admission, depending on which jurisdiction. And then we offer typically for undergraduates, an internship to gain some experience of what kind of real life is like within a busy law firm. So if we move on, and I can explain the structure of the program that we have on offer. So this is a graphic that illustrates essentially what is a 2-year program. Now, the reason that a number of you on the call may be thinking that it takes less than 2 years in order to complete the exams and education requirements and the sort of post-graduation requirements to be admitted in the UAE, which is true. However, we hold a firm belief that we want you as a trainee, irrespective of which bar admission that you're pursuing, to gain some real experience, some real practice experience. Hence why we have designed a program that will last for 2 years. And during that period, you gain a number of different experiences, whether that is on the job experience in a practice, in a department, and that you would rotate over a period of 2 years and do 4 different rotations during that period, 6 months each, and gain different experience. You heard Mohammed there talk about litigation. You've just heard Malik talk about arbitration. They're 2 of what we have 15 different areas of practice within the UAE. So typically a trainee would spend 6 months in one department, that may be litigation, and gain some experience there, and then move on to a different department, which say could be the corporate department. That's the department that would be dealing with corporate transactions, mergers, acquisitions, that type of law. And then the other 2 rotations could be around sort of brand protection in the IP department, or it could be in the arbitration department, you heard there from Malik. So we've got 15 different practice areas, and it's an opportunity to gain a different set of experiences before determining what specialization you see yourself pursuing post admission to the Bar Association. Now, I saw a question on the chat room about how do you decide that, which specialization that you would choose to follow. Well, this is the means to do that, is to gain some experience, gain an insight into the different areas of practice that the firm has, and then in doing so, through the guidance of your mentors, through the sort of passion, hopefully, that you've developed for one or more of those areas, will help you sort of hone in on the practice area that you wish to then specialize in. one of the consequences of the development of the legal sector in recent years, and I think Mohammed mentioned this, is that it has gone down very much a sort of lines of specialization. So very few law firms now offer the opportunity to be a generalist, and indeed the client demands are such that they want a specialist on any given matter, whether that's a disputes such as arbitration or litigation, or a transactional matter. So, and typically the bigger the law firm is, the more specializations it has. And it's been said already, but we're the largest in the UAE and probably have the biggest breadth of different practice areas compared to other law firms in this jurisdiction. So that's a key element of the 2-year training. In addition to that, it's not just about gaining experience in a sort of practical sense from department to department. It's also getting access to formal training, to the sort of revision courses, the professional education that you need to follow in order to get the bar admission at the end of the period. So whether that is a formal exam that you'll be sitting, in the most part it would be. Obviously different exams depending on which jurisdiction it is, but there's quite a rigorous period of training and education to support the development ahead of sitting any formal exam. And then in addition to that, there will be some sort of professional skills courses available to really hone your practice management skills. And that's all, how should you behave? What are the core skills sort of outside of the technical knowledge of being a practicing lawyer? So all of that is sort of put together over the 2-year period in a formal curriculum. Tala is responsible for delivering that with subject matter experts from various parts of the firm, including external experts that will deliver that training and that coaching for you. And then running alongside that is, of course, what we're referring here in the slide is the support network. So there's various people that contribute to that. So we've heard from Malik, I think, about the importance of getting a mentor. So that's one input. And the relationship with the mentor is very different to a relationship as your direct line manager. So these things are all there to support the growth and professional development of a trainee over that period. And indeed, it would continue beyond simply the trainee program. And a lot of the mentor relationships will continue for many, many years. But you can see there are 4 parts to it. That there's a direct sort of what we call the training supervisor. That would be an experienced lawyer that can impart their knowledge, that can provide feedback, that can review your work, that can coach you through any particular task. There'll be a mentor. A mentor is a more of an informal relationship. It's unlikely that would be a formal line management relationship. And this is somebody that you can bounce ideas off. You can have sort of more confidential discussions about how your career is developing. You can share with them, perhaps concerns you might have, some obstacles that you recognize that you need advice to get to overcome. And they in turn will share their kind of wisdom and their support and experience that they've gained over many years of practice. We then have a sort of buddy system that's more of a peer-to-peer type relationship. That will be somebody that's either an existing trainee or a recently qualified trainee who can again sort of relate to you in terms of the experiences that you're going through. And then finally, we have the sort of learning and development department, which is the department that Talas sits in, and she obviously manages this program and will be a significant point of contact for all of the trainees. So, and then the final piece of this slide is really our sort of feedback loop and our review process. So there will be objectives to achieve in each of the seats. We call the rotations seats. So in each of those 6 months blocks, there'll be some specific learning objectives that you'll have. There'll be a review process along the way to check in to ensure that those objectives are being met, what progress is being made, what support is required, what feedback is and coaching is needed in order to ensure that there's some successful outcomes during the period of that 6 months. So very briefly, that's the overview of the 2 years. Now that is the same set of experiences, irrespective of which route that you may choose to follow, whether it's the admission locally under the UAE courts or whether it's the England and Wales programme. And importantly, one of the goals that we have as a firm is that we want to see more recently qualified lawyers in the sort of non-litigation department. So there's quite a high proportion of our Emirati lawyers that are litigators, and actually we'd like to see more representation of UAE nationals and Emirati lawyers in some of the transactional departments. And that's a key goal that we have at the firm. We want to see more fulsome representation in those departments, which is why it's important that we offer those early learning opportunities and exposure to those departments to hopefully give you the opportunity to gain an insight and an interest in that area, and not limit your own sort of ambitions to the litigation department only. And I'm sure the litigators on this call will agree with that we want to see more representation in the corporates department, the corporate structuring department, the transactional areas and advisory areas, where typically there's a high proportion of expats. We'd like to see that more balanced across the firm.
Thank you, Andrew. If you don't mind, can we, because there's lots of questions about this, can we keep it till the end, because Samer has to be somewhere, we're running a little bit late. So if you can start his session, and I know that you have lots of questions that you're going to ask about this specifically, so we're going to keep it till the end after we're done with the Samer's session.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Andrew. So I want to introduce Samer Liqda, our managing partner. We know that Samer has to leave at 5 sharp. We're sorry for that. Samer, over to you, please.
Thank you, Tala, and thank you, everyone. And apologies that we have to rush it, in fact. And it's unfortunate that we're having to address you virtually, guys. Would have been, in fact, a pleasure to be sitting in a physical setting with you and feel the engagement from your side. And I would tell you out of personal experience why I'm stressing this. Obviously, I hope that what you've heard so far over the last couple of hours is convincing, and I hope the team were successful in selling the firm and the profession to you. But if I would leave you with any piece of advice, in fact, I would say don't take things for granted. No matter what you hear around you, please don't become a lawyer unless you're completely convinced that this is the profession that you want to do. Taking you back to Sam's earlier comment, and I'll start where he left it. In fact, Sam spoke about the components of a talented lawyer, and he spoke about the differentiators of the same group of people going through the same training, same exercise, but for a reason or another, there are those exceptional lawyers that actually shine out of that. There is a reason for that, obviously. And if I would name one particular reason, I'd say the passion. Without it, you will not be successful in the profession. And I'm not telling you this out of vacuum. I'm telling you this out of experience. I personally been through that process. I come from a legal family. My father is a judge. He's a professor as well. He's an academic person, extremely successful person. At the very early stage of my career, in fact, he was trying to convince me to become a professor. And I did actually do all what it takes to succeed in that. And I did get the scholarship, to get to the PhD and what have you, and I've tried my luck there, but it's not something that I like. Yes, I have actually the backup. I have the contacts. I have all what it takes for me to be successful on that, but this is not where I found myself. I always dreamt to be a lawyer. I felt that this is where I can actually add value. This is where I can basically see myself. And I started my career in Georgia, and again, I didn't like the fact that we had limitations in terms of doing things by the book, being generalist, having limited room to grow in terms of the choice of the practice that you do. You've heard from the team about the variety of practices that you have. And again, the whole purpose of this training is to give you this exposure to the different areas of law, where you would pick basically the area that you can succeed in. You will be hearing advices from many people talking about, yes, litigation is profitable. You will be seeing movies and series and suits and telling you how this profession is actually profitable, attractive, and what have you. This is not the reality. The reality is what you experience through your practice. The recommendation that were given earlier from Isam and the others about this election and about the fact that you really need to try things out before you make your ultimate choice, these are crucial. These are really crucial. I tried everything basically under the sun when I started my profession. I started as a generalist. I did litigation. I did intellectual property. I did banking. And this is, again, although it may sound basically a bit challenging, you would be going through different areas of law and hectic choices, but at the end of the day, for you to become a well-rounded lawyer, you really need to have this background. This is what we were talking about the continuous learning and the continuous reinvention of ourselves. This is what differentiates basically successful lawyers from others. So you have those who would take things for granted and would go with the flow and what is available. But no matter what opportunities are put your way, you will still be average. You cannot basically shine up, and you cannot become this exceptional lawyer that you would dream of being. If you want to be exceptional lawyer, you need to pave your way. You really need to create that career path for yourself. You will be going through different practices and different trainings throughout your career. And again, relating that to my own experience, I'm still living it. As I said, I come from a legal family, and it just so happened that my wife is a lawyer, and my daughter, who's currently considering her university studies, is very passionate about law. And believe it or not, this is speaking about the passion. I was trying to actually convince her not to go through this, because I genuinely believe that unless you like it, you will not be successful in it. But she proved me wrong. She actually won every single argument that we had with over different matters. And that tells you how passionate she is around that, to the extent that, in fact, I always keep mentioning this example. When she applied for universities, she's hoping to study in the UK. When she applies for a university, one of the requirements for the application is a personal statement. And you would think that in the personal statement, she would mention that her father and mother are actually coming from a legal background. She refused to mention this. She wanted to really dig her own path and achieve what she wants. And she got the acceptance as well. She got 4 out of 5 acceptance so far. And she is so adamant to go down that route. I guess the irony here, and I keep saying this, and I would really want you to think carefully about this. If you don't like it, if you don't have the passion for it, please don't do it. No matter who tells you to do it, no matter what you've heard today about that, don't do it. Just do the thing that you're convinced, totally convinced that this is where you want to see yourself, and keep reinventing yourself. There is no one route that takes you to where you want to be. This is an evolving area. We are living, I'll give you a flavor of this. This year in particular, and I've been practicing here for over 23 years now. I thought I've learned everything, I knew everything about the law. This year, 40 laws were introduced in the UAE alone. And you think that you've basically have developed the sufficient experience to advise your clients? No, this is an evolving area. You need to continue to learn. You need to continue to reinvent yourself. This is where you can add value. When we say we are committed to our clients' success, we mean it. We're here to ensure that we are giving them the practical advice. This is the main objective of the lawyer. This is where, when I talk about passion, this is where you need to see yourself, not the suits, not the profit that comes from that, but it's actually more of a mission that we here lawyers are to deliver to our community. So once again, you should be pleased that you have the opportunity to listen to people, but please make your own judgment, make your own decision. Ask as many questions that comes to mind. For lawyers, for them to take the right decision, it has to make sense to them. If you're not convinced, that means that you're not there to make the decision. Ask as many questions, see as many options, explore, change midway. You've heard the change of career. This is an inspiring story, and there is a reason for it. I started as an academic. I've told you, I got the scholarship to get the PhD and start in a university as a lecturer. But then I shifted because this is not what I wanted to be. So keep thinking about this. I can't wish you anything other than being the most talented lawyers in this region. Yes, there is a huge room for talented lawyers like you. And now you got additional tools to actually reach that ultimate goal quicker than it took us to get where we're at today. But the sky is the limit in terms of what you can do and what you can contribute to our communities. So good luck in what you're doing. I wish you all the best in your training, and I really hope to see as many of you becoming part of our program. And if you do, please feel free to reach out to me. Let's have this in-person conversation, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at that point. Thank you. Like Tala said, I have another commitment that I have to rush to, and this is one of the challenges, speaking of the challenges of a lawyer. So apologies for that, and I will leave you in the safe hands of the team to continue. Thank you very much.
So much. Have a lovely day. Thank you. Andrew, shall we go back? Yes, Andrew.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah. Hi. Hi. I'm back with you now. So thank you to
Sorry for that.
No.
Okay,
And yeah, we're back to Well, maybe Tala, I don't know if you can share the slide again on the screen, but I had finished talking through the overview of the program. So I think probably we were leading to then questions about what the next steps would be in terms of those that are interested in being considered for the program. So
Yeah.
there's a couple of questions, and let me just re-emphasize this point. There are various kind of regulatory reasons in most jurisdictions, but certainly it is the case in the UAE, that to be admitted locally as a lawyer, that is limited to UAE nationals. So those of you that are on this call that are Emiratis, then that is one option. And then the second option for Emiratis, and the only option really for non-Emiratis, is to pursue the England and Wales qualification, which is essentially the UK solicitor qualification. And although we are headquartered here in Dubai and we're a UAE firm and we practice across the Middle East and North Africa, we are nevertheless registered with the SRA, which is the regulator in the UK that regulates the solicitor and legal profession. And we're registered to be able to award that qualification. And we have something like in excess of 70 UK qualified, England and Wales qualified solicitors in this firm practicing. So we've got multiple already qualified solicitors, qualified lawyers that are in the UK that can supervise the trainees. And that's one of the reasons why we've got the ability to run both qualification routes. So those are the two principal routes. Now, we do have in all of the other countries we operate in similar programs. So some of you on this call may well be Jordanian, for example. We have an office in Jordan, and then that's an opportunity to qualify in Jordan. Similarly, in Bahrain, in KSA, and in all of the different countries that we operate. Currently that's 9, soon to be 10. But I think in the most part today, we're talking about the opportunities in the UAE. The application process opened this week. So I think it was the 1st of March, Tala, correct me if I'm wrong, where we opened on the website invitations for applications for the trainee program, which would commence later this year, around October, November time. So the idea is that that there is a window to submit an application, which opened on the 1st of March. I think it closes at the end of April. So have a look on the website. There will be details and guidance on the website about what our requirements are in terms of what kind of qualification level of degree you will need, what the academic achievement should be. Have a look at that. If you feel that you meet that requirement, then please submit your application. And there is also some guidance about what would happen next. Obviously, I said the 30th of April is when the application window closes. So it will be after that date that we would be in a position to make an assessment of the application, to invite people for interview, to invite people for assessment, because it's not just an interview, there's a range of things that we ask the graduate applications to undertake. There's a test, there's a video that you need to submit. So there's a number of different things required, which all forms part of the selection process. Ultimately, that culminates in an interview with one of our partners, as well as somebody from the HR team. So in summary, that's the process. It's not dissimilar to other graduate application processes. And then that would be in view of commencing in the sort of towards the end of this year, November 2022. And then, as I illustrated earlier in the slide, we would expect that program then to run for 2 years, during which time you would do the necessary exams and studying alongside your workplace experience. So I'll pause there if there's any questions. The one thing I should say, and I think it's probably been said already over the last 2 hours, is that notwithstanding that we are essentially an Arab firm and we're only represented in the Middle East and North Africa, we do require a high level of competency in English, both verbal and written. The reason for that is because English is, whilst a lot of the law is conducted in Arabic, equally the English is the kind of accepted legal language, international legal language, and many of our clients require client correspondence in English, and they may require a translation of the Arabic judgments, for example, if it's been heard in the courts in English. So it's important that we have a high level of English for those whose English is a second language.
So Andrew, I've been looking into the questions, and it's all related. I mean, you covered them all, and they answered how they need to apply and all of that, and we directed them to the website where they can find our programs there and they can apply. And as there's one maybe new, let me see if there's another question there. Okay, I think, is there any other question, guys, you want to add in the chat box? One last question before we go. I know we passed the time, like 8 minutes passing the time, but anyway, you know where to find us, I think. Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, no, I mean, if there's any questions sort of after today, do reach out to us. I think if you haven't got our direct contact details, you can get hold of us through the switchboard or via Tala or the website. If you've got any questions, you know, we're happy to talk to you directly about that.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you all for joining us.
Take care, everyone.
Hopefully we'll
Thanks
see
for
you
your
soon
time.
face to face. Have a lovely evening and